Hello there, welcome to the channel, Living Life on Less. Today's video is all about the urban slums in the 1950s UK, how they came about, the standards of living people had to endure, and how these problems were eventually solved. This video contains some filmed footage from documentaries from the 1950s to give you a true feeling of how life was back then in the UK. But first of all, we need to know why. In the 1950s, the UK cities particularly faced significant challenges with slums due to a combination of historical factors and very contemporary issues. Looking back in time, there was the Industrial Revolution. This was the rapid industrialisation of the 18th and 19th centuries that led to mass migration from rural areas to urban cities, resulting in overcrowded cities. The demand for labour in factories and industries concentrated populations in cities like London, Manchester, Birmingham and Liverpool. This led to rapid expansion of urban areas without adequate planning or housing. In the more recent times of the 1950s, there was a housing shortage after World War II. There was a severe shortage of housing in the UK due to the destruction caused by bombing raids and the prioritisation of the wartime efforts over civilian infrastructure. Cities in the UK particularly were heavily bombed, so the lack of housing, coupled with a growing population, led to overcrowding and the proliferation of slums. The urban planning failures in the early to mid-20th century often neglected the needs of lower-income residents. Many city planners focused on rebuilding infrastructure damaged during the war or on modernising city centres, often at the expense of the neighbourhoods. This neglect exacerbated the conditions in slum areas. There was economic inequality, and it was very significant in post-war Britain. Low wages, unemployment and poverty were prevalent, especially amongst certain demographic groups. These economic challenges made it difficult for people to afford the adequate housing which would allow them to leave the slum areas. Lack of regulations was also a big problem. There was few regulations and standards for housing conditions, certainly compared to modern times, were poor due to landlords often exploiting tenants by providing inadequate, overcrowded and poorly maintained housing. This was due to little or no oversight from authorities. There was also the stigma and discrimination surrounded slum areas, which often housed marginalised communities, immigrants, minorities and the working poor. Discrimination and social stigma against these groups contributed to the neglect of their living conditions and the persistence of slums. Here are a few snippets of videos which shows the deprivation these people had to endure very well.
We had bread and butter and everything completely eaten that you could see it was rat marks, and then we had the rats jump over the shoes. As a matter of fact, she's 3-year-old now. She was 6 or 7 weeks old when one got into a cot. Tony was only a year and a half. I was out here making a bottle. She was bottle fed, and as I made the bottle to take it in, I keep them regular to feeds because they sort of sleep right from 9 o'clock at night till nearly 6 in the morning. I just made the feed and Tony wanted to go to the toilet, so I brought him out here and put him on the popo. Being as a new baby, he thought he'd never get back, and we could hear this sucking and sucking. I took it for granted it was a baby sucking a thumb, like, sucking on the thumb. So I caught a hold of Tony's hand and said, "Come on, we're going to the new baba." As we walked in, the baby was still asleep. The bottle, I was only after making the bottle a few minutes before that and leaving it propped on the body of the baby, like in the bed, so as it wouldn't spill. Mind, it was a young rat, but it was very big. It was as big as the baby's bottle and a big long tail. I know that that one scream and pushed little Tony back, and I had to run round the cot and grab the baby out of the cot, which had these long gowns. And as it had got the fright, it had dropped the bottle. It had taken a whole piece out right off the nipple, and it dropped the bottle, and it was running out of the cot because I had come past it, and I sort of scared it that way, and I got the other end to grab the baby out. And as I was grabbing the baby out, it caught onto the bottom of the baby's gown. This is where we live. The rent is £2.2 and 6, and we pay it regular every Monday. My oldest son, Thomas, is 14 years of age since July, and the next is Edward. He'll be 13 in November. The next is Marie. She's 11-year-old August, and Philomena was 8-year-old in August. Then there's Tony, he's 4.5, and then there's the baby Angela. She's 3-year-old last May.
Another tenant is Mr. Bill Lewis.
I live on the ground floor at number 70 Ailey Street. I pay £3.10 a week rent. When I came here, I paid 1 month's rent in advance. I couldn't move in for 11 weeks because the base was not in a fit state to live in, and I had to redecorate it myself.
On the first floor lived Mrs. Lily Coles, mother of 8.
That's the room Lily Cole used to live in, and she could tell you a lot about having such a large family in that one room.
It was like hell there in the one room with the whole lot of us. We didn't know what it was there to do anything right. My health and all was gone in it. It was work all the time there when you'd be looking after the children. Even if they were sick, there was no way of them getting well quick enough because they were in the one room and the other children wouldn't leave them alone because they'd be all on top of one another. So if one got a cold, they all got it.
The slums were characterised by overcrowding, unsanitary and dilapidated housing conditions. And addressing this issue took a multifaceted approach which included policy change, community involvement, and of course the support and free healthcare of the newly established National Health Service. Through concerted efforts, the UK government, local authorities, community organisations and healthcare providers worked together to tackle the root causes of slum housing and improve living conditions for millions of people. One of the primary drivers for change was the enactment of the comprehensive housing policies aimed at slum clearance and the construction of new affordable homes. The Housing Act of 1957, for example, provided local authorities with increased powers and financial support to undertake slum clearance projects. This legislation enabled councils to compulsorily purchase and demolish unfit housing, even if they belonged to private landlords. This went on to facilitate the construction of modern council-owned housing estates. These new developments aimed to replace the inadequate housing of the slums with safe, sanitary and well-equipped dwellings. Additionally, government subsidies and incentives encouraged private developers to contribute to the construction of affordable housing. In addition to policy interventions, community mobilisation and healthcare support, the eradication of the slums in the 1950s required a broader socio-economic context that addressed underlying issues of poverty, equality and exclusion. Economic prosperity and post-war reconstruction efforts started to create opportunities for job growth, wage increases and social mobility. This helped many families escape the cycle of poverty and secure better housing options. Education and training programmes offered pathways to employment and economic advancement. Community involvement played a crucial role in the slum clearance efforts of the 1950s. Local residents, often organised through tenant associations and community groups, actively campaigned for better housing conditions and participated in the planning and implementation of redevelopment projects. Community engagement fostered a sense of ownership and empowerment amongst residents that they were not carrying on living like this and their voices were to be heard in the decision-making processes. Furthermore, community-led initiatives such as neighbourhood improvement schemes and voluntary housing associations complemented government-led efforts at a grassroots level. By involving residents as partners in the transformation of their neighbourhoods, authorities fostered a collaborative approach to slum clearance that prioritised the well-being and dignity of the affected communities. The National Health Service played a pivotal role in addressing the health-related aspects of slum housing and those that lived there. Public health campaigns were aimed at improving sanitation, hygiene and disease prevention. This helped raise awareness of the health risks posed by substandard housing conditions, and the NHS established community health services, including district nurses and health visitors, and environmental health inspections to help support individuals and families living in the slum areas. The aim was to contribute to the overall improvement of health and outcomes and quality of life for those that were moving from the slums to the newer housing estates. The successful eradication of slums in the United Kingdom during the 1950s was achieved through a combination of policy measures, community engagement, and free healthcare support. By implementing comprehensive housing policies involving local residents in decision-making processes and leveraging the resources of the National Health Services, authorities were able to address the root causes of slum housing and improve the living conditions for millions. This was a multifaceted approach which once again would work today. Unfortunately, we seem to be slipping backwards into old ways and old failures. Hopefully it's not too late to learn from the past and have a brighter future. Maybe those that govern us one day, soon, will wake up. Thanks for watching today. If you liked the video, we do have a link at the end of this video to the full black and white documentary regarding the UK slums from the 1950s. It's very interesting watching, especially if you like social history. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you'd like more videos from our channel, please subscribe, and we'll be back again soon with another video. Wherever you are in this uber modern world, we hope you have a delightful day. Bye for now.